Welcome back. You got Will and Iman here from the Block Runner MetaZone, Rovi, and Mscribe, and today we got another DMT update. So many things have been happening, Iman.
A lot, dude. It's so much so that we've kind of had to like slow down a bit on the content output just because.
Yeah, I asked you, like, you know, how many videos did we do last week? And you're like, just one. I was like, what?
It's been like a solid year where we've had consistently at least like 4 videos a week.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Roughly. Yeah.
But the target goal is always to have one every single day.
Yeah.
And we've been pretty good, I would say. Like
Yeah.
we've covered an expansive set of knowledge and like interesting topics within ordinals and bitmap.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. But things are accelerating in the DMT ecosystem at such a pace. It's like, man, it's like it's hard to keep up, right? And it's not, we're not just trying to keep up on like what's actually propagating from DMT. Like there's some wheels that need to be churning, maintained and such. Mscribe in particular.
Yeah. So we've been extremely busy, kind of updating Mscribe to support everything that's been going on, just because there's a lot of interest we're seeing with natcats, and people just wanted to generate art based off the block data.
Correct. So yeah, we've been witnessing that over the weekend. It's quite the like UNAT ready for UNAT mania. Like literally, dude.
Yeah.
The unique non-arbitrary token family is expanding.
Yeah.
Very quickly. I think people just are gravitating to it naturally because that's what art does. It is like visually stimulating, and it's like
easy to understand.
Correct. Yeah. So now you're pulling in all that visual interest and like marrying it with one of the more interesting native concepts that's emerging from the Bitcoin space, right? And those aren't our words. We're seeing like influencers, other podcasters say that stuff, right?
Yeah, other influencers who are like huge into the NFT space on Ethereum and Bored Apes.
Yeah, we're talking dudes who were like very notable on the NFT side, like Punk I forget his numbers, like 6529 or something like that.
Yeah,
one of those famous crypto punk guys, right?
Yep.
Who built like his whole online persona around that. Probably had like a multi-million-dollar punk portfolio, something like that. He's looking at natcats. And he's like, dude, I like what I see.
Right.
Thread guy, another very
notable
NFT influencer. He's like, dude, these things are beautiful.
Yeah.
It's happening, dude. People are interested. Right?
Yeah, so let's talk about what's been going on. So I'm looking at a tweet here. It says natcats floor. He's got a chart going on here. And so this is not up to date as of today. But
yeah, this was up to date as of like yesterday.
But today, I think the floor price is around 0.03 to 0.06.
I'm seeing like literally in real time on Twitter, like 0.05 to 0.06.
Okay. So that is at least a 1000x. From minting.
At I would say like 0.06 floor is like an official like 1000x. Because I remember like roughly like $3 mint. It was like the rough cost.
Yeah, so do I. Around $4.
$3 to $4. That was, $3 on like a good block,
Yeah.
So it was like, wow. So 1000x. Who would have saw that coming? Definitely not us.
No. 1000x. That's crazy.
It's the power of JPEGs, dude. It's fucking insane.
Yeah. So, okay. So that's what's happening. And then we got another tweet here. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
so here it is. 0.05 to 0.06.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unreal hype around these cats. We're crossing 0.1 today. Puppets and monks. Watch your back.
Damn. Going after the ordinals. I mean, these are also technically ordinals.
Well, these are ordinals, but they're based off block data, which is very interesting. I mean,
yeah, I think the market is confirming that. It's not just us who thought this is interesting.
I mean, when we first saw that, we thought it was really interesting. It's like art based on block data. So this is one man's interpretation of block data, right? We had another man's interpretation of block data equal bitmap. Right, that is the metaverse interpretation of block data. Yeah. We got another interpretation with cats.
Correct.
And we're going to talk about other interpretations that we're going to see here in a second.
Yeah.
All right, so we have natcats. Oh, so this one shocked me by far.
Yeah, I woke up to this news, and I you know how you wake up like it's like groggy, like your eyes barely work in the morning. Maybe that's just me because of my poor health conditions. I don't know. It's like I wake up basically blind, and I'm looking at my phone, and I see like 1.3 Bitcoin. Hold on, that can't be right.
Yeah,
right?
No, there's no way.
There's no way.
Yeah, and I saw this too. Natcat 829,999 just sold for 1.3 Bitcoin. So that is about 70 grand for a cat.
One cat. But this is not just any cat.
No.
This is a very special cat, which probably merits the value here.
Yeah,
right?
so this is the only cat with a giant alien fish.
The only.
And I think you get a giant fish when you have like 4 9s in a row.
Something like that, yeah.
And so think about that. This occurs one time when the element, or in this case the pattern, is 3B in the bits field. Mm-hmm. So first it has to meet the pattern 3B.
Yeah.
Right? It has to be there. Then if your block height ends with 4 9s or has 4 9s in it, you get a giant fish.
So you can't just like expect the next time a quadruple 9 lines up in the block, like that's going to be another alien fish.
Yeah, it won't, because they might not have a 3B pattern in the bits field.
Correct. So that's what's fucking mind-boggling about all this. It's like,
and then again, it could exist again.
It could, yeah.
And that's why this is fascinating.
Yeah.
Right? This isn't just arbitrary stuff that someone just came up with and are like doing a random art project. Mm-hmm. Right? This is based off the data, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is art, like a whole new sector of art it depends on Bitcoin's like existence, right?
Yeah.
Without Bitcoin in operation, like
this doesn't exist.
The art doesn't generate, like so that is like kind of like a wrapper showcase of what we meant by digital matter theory.
Yeah.
Like literally leveraging Bitcoin and its like substrate layer, which we consider as like the data layer, like that is the generative component to create like a whole new class of digital assets, right?
Yeah, so if this is the first time you're hearing about digital matter theory, go to our Twitter account and look at the pinned tweet. This is when we released digital matter theory as a concept, and Git book, and the first token, NAT. Yeah. And in there, if you go read the Git book, there's this thing called hybrid tokens, right? We alluded to art being part of this ecosystem. It wasn't ready because indexing, right?
Correct.
So now that indexing is on board, now you have all kinds of art, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, moving on. All right, in addition to natcats, we have nat dogs.
Yeah.
Right, and so there's something interesting about nat dogs. So here we have DMT nat dogs deployed on this element 3B, 3B11. So the name of the element is 3B. They could have come up with a different name, but it is what it is. The pattern in the bits field is 3B. This is the bits field, and then you have dot element. So remember, these elements are what we call element registry, meaning these are completely open source. If you like this pattern, you can just point to it, and you can have the exact same pattern for your ecosystem of art, right?
Correct.
So
and that's exactly what happened, because this is the same pattern. This is the same as natcats.
This is the same as natcats. That's right.
Yeah.
So nat dogs are hybrid DMT tokens. Nat dog mint tokens act as art tokens, non-fungible. So it kind of break down the whole ecosystem. So remember, when you mint this art, right, you get a hybrid token. So what is that? You get the art piece, which is the mint, the inscription mint, and then you get the fungible token. Yeah. Right? 2 completely separate assets. They're independent from each other. You can sell one and you keep the art. If you buy you can buy all the fungible tokens and you won't have any art, right? Mm-hmm. So they're separate assets. Correct. Now, what can you do with that? Who knows? Somebody can come up with an ecosystem where they kind of play with each other.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the whole point.
That's the whole point. Yeah,
it's just throwing out this new dynamic into the crypto space and see like how how you guys end up deploying all these assets and building ecosystems around it.
Yeah,
that's literally the whole point of open source.
So and a lot of this stuff, right? If you're wondering, it's like, well, where's the alpha? Like, how do you know about this stuff before it hits like the Twitter sphere? Yeah, so it all happens on Discord.
Yeah, Discord and Mscribe, which we're gonna show you guys here, because that is like the most plugged in platform interface to like this whole indexer, right? So if you want to know like what's deploying in real time, and have like the most seamless minting experience that's designed for this type of digital matter proliferation, definitely go check it out.
Yeah, and we're going to show you here in a second.
Oh, yeah. Okay, back to the nat dogs.
Nat dogs.
So that was the Bitcoin variant.
Yeah, that was a Bitcoin variant. Now this is the Doge variant.
Yeah.
Right? And so update, so rough estimate is that 14,000 nat dogs out of 28,000 are inscribed as of now. So if you go back to the Bitcoin variant, there's about 8,064 occurrences of this pattern within Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But on Doge, with 5 million blocks or so, it has 28,000 occurrences. So if you do the rough math, that means that on Bitcoin, roughly, this would occur 28,000 times if you wait for 5 million blocks, and that is roughly
many years,
75 years.
Yeah. pretty much.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what's cool to see about this like DMT, proliferation on separate chains. It's arguably, I mean, they have the same name. They're different products. Like the art's different between the two.
Yep.
But this one's like the first, I think, actual deployment on Doge, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it is.
So, but yeah, same name, very similar approach, but completely different in like its existence parameters again, because they're operating from different substrate layers. Yeah. One's Bitcoins, one's Doge, right? Even though those two chains are very similar, actually, I think they're
exactly the same, except I think they have different block times.
Correct. Yeah. So it's just good to see, right? And this is what we said. DMT isn't like specific for Bitcoin.
No, it's not.
It could be applied basically anywhere there's like a blockchain environment.
Yeah. Yeah, so this one at 14K, that represents half, so 50% minted out.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. So we're talking about Mscribe. So this is the location where when people deploy a DMT token, it exists here, right? As long as you're deploying it on field 11, right? So if you click on elements, right now the only thing being indexed out of the 38 fields is one field, which is number 11, which is the bits field.
Correct.
And so the bits field has two different data types. It is the numeric or decimal one, and the other one is hexadecimal, right? And so that's why you see different kinds of patterns, right? Numeric patterns, and then sometimes you see letters here, hexadecimal letters. And so you can pick any one of these to launch your own DMT token. So you pick this one, deploy NAT, and there's a clean interface to deploy a token. So once that's done, and it's officially deployed and mined and everything, it pops up here. And so if you were wanting to be the first to mint anything, just check out this page. Yeah. And there's a ton of them here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is growing very quickly.
Yeah.
All right.
So moving on, we got DMT shrooms. This is the latest thing, or one of the latest things being minted right now.
Yeah. If you go back to that NATs page, you just sift through them. You look at all these like NATs that are deployed, and they have like 8,000 or so supply. Why? Because they're all pointing to that natcat element, which is that 3V pattern existence within the bits field. Why? That's just the individual choice these deployers have made. It's like, hey, this is a good pattern.
Yep.
It's close enough to 10K, which is like, the meta of NFTs and ordinals and such. So it's like, 8K is within that realm. So, and it's not arbitrarily generated, yada, 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 all that stuff. Let's share some properties with natcats, right? So non-arbitrary properties.
So, for example, natdogs, here it is, using 3B element.
Yeah.
And it has 8,064 circulating, so that means roughly that is the supply of the token. But nat rats using the same field or the same element. Shrooms, same element. We
frogs.
have nat frogs. So these we were speculating that are going to have art. Right? There's no art yet, but we're speculating that it will.
Correct.
And if you guys want to make art and you want to make it on chain the same way natcats did it, just reach out to us. We'll help you do it on chain. It's pretty simple once you understand the process. And pretty soon we're going to release an update to the Git book on DMT to make this very
and it'll have like the demonstrations on there, so you can actually basically peer into the the script, right?
Yeah.
To generate some of these rarity components purely from like referencing block information and such like that, and have it all on chain.
Yeah.
So there's a couple variations of how that can be done. That'll all be public pretty soon.
Yeah.
So let's see so we're talking about the market is speculating which of these, natcat derivatives, I guess, are sharing the same pattern. Like, are they going to have art? So today, the Shrooms guy said, art is coming. Preview within 24, 48 hours.
Yes. The sneak preview in 24 to 48 hours. That was 2 hours ago, so it's dropping soon.
Yeah.
I'm really interested just because, this could be cool.
I like the idea of shrooms and DMT pairing together. I mean, it's like a whole psychedelic journey. Right?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's good for the culture, I guess, of what's happening over here. I mean, it is kind of trippy when you go down the rabbit hole and you start thinking.
Yeah.
Especially when you start like injecting physics and like is this all leading to like a whole I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole actually.
Yeah.
That's too deep, dude.
All right. Speaking about too deep, we got Enoch here with his own chaos art.
Yeah.
Right. So I saw like a GIF of this and it looked really interesting.
This is interesting. Yeah. So this isn't like your typical like animal project.
No.
This
is something else.
Yeah. And I think Enoch here specifically with chaos is not referencing like the natcat pattern.
No, it's not. it's completely different.
So it's completely independent, its own like thing. I think it's even more limited, maybe like a 2,000 supply.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, so it's just even more like sparsely propagated pattern existence, right? Resulting in a much more scarce asset.
Yeah.
Non-arbitrarily generated. Pretty cool.
Yeah, so all these elements you can imagine being different for the 2,000 supply.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. We got Mitoshi here with Pepitinos.
Another one.
Yeah, so this I thought was cool. I wonder if this is actually a 3D, but besides, by the way, you can do 3D projects as well in art.
Yeah.
And we're going to show you one way to do it. I'm sure there's other ways, but I guess our way is a little bit more potentially efficient, and you can do a ton more of stuff than but I guess you'll have to wait and see what it looks like.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have Pepentinos here, and the dashboard is out. So this
I think all of these are minted out, so there's no point in even mentioning that.
Oh, okay.
Like when these tweets are put out, it's like
it's over.
They mint out very quickly. So yeah, you're right. You have to be really plugged into the Discord channels.
Yeah.
And to really like try and catch these things whenever they're birthed, you know, like for instance, the shrooms minted out in like a few hours, I think.
Yeah.
It was just quick. Once people started realizing it's like, hey, something new is deployed, and they linking like a Twitter account. It's like, okay, in.
Yeah.
You know, so all that was happening over the weekend. So yeah, it's interesting.
All right, we've got another one, experimenting with DMT, but starting with the art.
There you go.
So I thought this was a good concept. So I guess this is another one that's brewing. We don't know any like particular name for this, right?
No. I think this is just a showcase that, again, like the awareness is spreading beyond just like the ordinals community. These are like traditional NFT artists that are like catching wind of, oh, there's a whole new like sector out there that I can kind of experiment with. I like that. Yeah. Maybe I have some experience creating like generative algorithms or somehow.
Yep.
You mean I can associate that to like block data? Yeah. Let me try.
Let me dabble.
Let me fuck around a bit and find out. You know.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Speaking about fucking around, we got DMT Nat ships, right? So this is like a kind of like an early representation. I have another one here with some a GIF kind of representing the different art. But this one's interesting because this one has 830,000 mints.
Yeah. So talk about the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah. You know you got the rare art, and then you have like the prolific art.
The ubiquitous. Yeah, exactly. It's ubiquitously like, you know, there's one in every block basically.
Yeah.
Similar to like bitmap. Bitmap references like a block height in its generative process. So it's like, so does this.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, you know, any block is a valid mint.
It's a valid mint. Yeah.
So what, you know, this is obviously like in its infancy. I think this needs to be developed a little bit further, but you know, there's going to be some sort of rarity component within this. I could imagine. There's 800,000 of them.
Yeah. I'm sure there's going to be like 3 or 4 that are like extremely rare.
Some blocks that are maybe like stacked perfectly aligned or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see. But the point is that is interesting. As somebody attempting to create like a 830,000
art
mint collection with like a well-known expansionary component, meaning like every day there's 144 new blocks, so 144 new ships, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's an interesting attempt.
All right, going on to the next part here.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we're kind of like, all right, exhausted with art, you know? Not really. It's only just... It's like,
barely getting started. It's like 5 days old, this whole thing.
I know. It really is. So we've been like... Me personally, I've been like just nonstop looking at this stuff.
Yeah.
And this is my nature.
This is coming from people who generally do not talk about art.
We don't.
Just because there's not a whole lot to say about the art.
Yeah, correct.
But there's a whole lot to say about this kind of art, right? And so that's what we find interesting about this.
Yeah, but remember the DMT ecosystem is a hybrid token protocol, so there are fungible tokens as well. And the first demonstration of an actual DMT deployment was the NAT token. So let's take a look at NAT and see how it's doing.
Yeah, so here at SuperX, I think this is like the easiest way to find a chart on the NAT token. So here it has like a volume of like 2 trillion NAT tokens out of the 343, so 300,000 USD T. But yeah, it's just crabbing. It's just moving along.
Right? Crabbing, accumulating, whatever you want to say. It's a token that literally was birthed, I think, a couple months ago, or maybe like a month and a half ago is whenever trading actually began. But it was minted back in November, and it was, again, kind of like the ships. Every single block was a valid inscription, valid mint. right? And that's all according to the pattern, the DMT.11 element.
Yep.
That is referencing the bits field in every single block. That is what is quantifying the existence of these tokens in every mint claim.
That's right. Yeah, so the highest that we've seen here, I think, was like 60 million. Yeah. And then the lowest we've seen was like 32.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of fluctuating.
Yeah, it's bouncing around. It's definitely found its like equilibrium state. It's like somewhere within that range, but the holder count continues to increase.
19K. So I did the analysis. Is like this is like the fourth most held Bitcoin asset.
Jeez.
For fungible tokens at least.
Yeah. It's pretty wild, dude. So yeah, there's a lot of people asking, when's, centralized exchange listing, just like we saw with BRC20s back in the day. It's like, that's what everybody was waiting for, right? BRC20s were obviously cool.
Mm-hmm.
You had Ordi, you had Sats,
mm-hmm.
Track, all these tokens, right? It's like, there's value in this. The market like pretty much got to like $1 billion valuation without the aid of centralized exchanges.
It did, yeah.
But it quickly found recentered gravity like around 200 million or something.
Exactly.
And then from there, it's like the pipeline process of like integrating this whole new, inscription protocol into like their centralized exchange indexers and stuff. It started to propagate and happen over like a 6-month time frame, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So I imagine something similar would have to occur for these DMT native assets, right? Because we're talking about a whole new indexing infrastructure here that centralized exchanges are not used to.
Yeah, so Track would have to sort of do some sort of integration with a lot of these centralized exchanges. And really, the centralized exchanges need to learn about what the hell is going on. This is new stuff that no one has ever seen before.
Correct.
Right, so this is a different kind of understanding that needs to happen.
And that stuff takes time, and of course, it needs like market validation to prove that it's like worth learning about, and that's what's happening, right? And NAT was like one of the highest volume traded assets over to like the last month.
Mm-hmm. Genie Data supports this too. Like, anytime you go to Genie Data, it's like a bunch of tap tokens are always being minted.
Yeah, so the evidence is there. So, but then we got evidence of Sora token here.
Well, before we get to Sora, I just wanted to mention is like, well, if you wanted to get a natcat or this is the DMT art, the NAT art here, right? This is what we had to do quickly to put everything on chain, and so we showed the natcats guy how to do it, and we did a quick version of our own like a generative art, right? So each mint of an NAT got you this piece of art, and so someone is selling it here. Yeah. But here you can acquire one of these cats.
Yeah, so I guess like we talk about the Battleships project. There has been an art collection that's done a full block out. It's the UNAT.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
But people didn't know when they were minting this NAT token.
This was not in the art category at the time.
We just kind of we've put it in after the fact. Right.
Yeah, because I mean, we like I said, we designed it this way, and it's designed specifically this way to incorporate all kinds of art, right? Yeah. From applications, right, apps, to art like this.
Yeah.
Right. So, all right, moving on. So Sora. Yeah, so Jason Fang launched this token called Sora on Tap, and a lot of time has been spent trying to figure out how to get it on centralized exchanges. There was a period where they collected funds from the community to list this on an exchange.
Yeah.
And finally they did it. It's on Poloniex. And now this is like the beginning of an avalanche potentially.
Well, this is what you just said. You literally, like the centralized exchanges, they're going to have to go through some sort of like integration process to understand how they even support the tap ecosystem. So this is definitely like a Trojan horse moment, like getting the foot in the door for the tap ecosystem into centralized exchanges. Like here it is. This is the blueprint. Reference to Poloniex, and this is going to propagate up the pipeline, eventually probably towards Binance. That seems to be like the destination for all
final destination. Yeah,
yes, everybody like strives for that Binance integration. But yeah, this is evidence that it's happening. It's starting with this token, and I'm pretty sure it's going to propagate throughout the rest of the tap ecosystem.
Yeah, if you support one token from the tap ecosystem,
you can support them all.
Yeah, why not?
Why wouldn't you? Right?
Yeah, it's easy.
That's just exactly.
All right. Speaking of easy, less than 48 hours to the tap protocol airdrop snapshot. The countdown is on. Secure your bags of Track. participate in the snapshot, and unleash the potential of the track protocol airdrop.
Yeah, we've been talking about this airdrop for a while, dude. It's been like 6 months or something.
Was it?
Maybe not that long.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I don't think it's that long, but
yeah, maybe like 3 months. I don't know.
Yeah, when we first started talking about track, what was it, like March of last year? So it's been a whole year.
Yeah.
Like we didn't know any of this stuff, right?
No.
So it's like
this is all like
this is recent, recent development stuff.
Yeah, but it's finally happening, dude. So yeah, speaking of tap ecosystem, again, track is the like backbone infrastructure enabling DMT to propagate.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big moment.
Yeah.
So the airdrop's coming very soon. This is what people have been waiting for. And yeah, talk about like tap tokens, getting into the door. I'm sure that's going to have its place. And it's like centralized exchange environment.
Yeah. All right. Finally, Navigator comes in with another document.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a document that written by Navigator. I think it hit one of the exchanges, right?
Gate.io.
Gate.io. Yeah, that's what it was. Pretty in-depth analysis on DMT. So he's got another in-depth analysis of the whole ordinal ecosystem.
Yeah, we wanted to bring this up for, I'm sure a lot of people are, catching, because ordinals themselves are blowing up. They're having their own like blow up moment. Like a lot of the top PFP collections are going up in value pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So people are taking notice of that, and they're like, they want to dabble. If I'm a creator and artist, like, how do I get in and actually do something, right? But you're gonna need a starting point, like you said. This is the context that you need to like quickly integrate into your mind to understand, like, how do I actually build something of substance within this ecosystem?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So definitely read this. This is interesting. So they have ordinals, BRC20s, they have runes, ARC20s, they have the DMT, NAT stuff, bitmaps, bitman, and bitmons. Kind of like, and it's all broken down here. Yeah. So it's definitely a good read, and kind of read through all this stuff. So if you're brand new to the ecosystem, you want like an overview of like what is happening, you read through this document as like a good starting point.
Totally. Yeah. And again, Navigator has a good understanding of like why DMT is important, and this is a good starting point. Of course, you could always reference our old videos. We have a ton of them. There's a lot happening. And I think just go from there, apply your creativity, and there's no better time and place than do that than the Bitcoin space, right?
Yeah. So if you're an artist and you kind of want to dabble in this stuff and you want to see how things are done, just hit us up. Join our Discord, DM us, do whatever. We're helping a ton of artists to kind of build out these DMT art, projects. So we'd like to hear from you. If we miss anything, let us know in the comment section below. That's it for us. Appreciate you, and we will catch you in the next video.
Peace.